My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my list of the best movies of 2021 so far. Last week I talked about the worst movies of 2021 so far, make sure you check that out. And the week before I talked about my most anticipated movies yet to come out in 2021. So this is the concluding chapter in my midway through 2021 list. And before I talk about some of the best movies I've seen so far this year, I'm going to talk about some movies that I haven't yet seen this year that couldn't make this list but had the potential to. And that's The Vorgau, New Order, Come True, Cliff Walkers, Senso, Zola, The Amusement Park, yes, I'm counting that as a 2021 release, Werewolves Within, Little Fish, and The Killing of Two Lovers. Movies that I really want to see, I just haven't had a chance to watch them yet. But anyways, let's begin this list with movie number 14, Bad Trip. This movie cracked me up. I found this movie to be absolutely hilarious. All the actors in this movie are in this storyline where the guy has to travel across the country to tell this girl that he hasn't seen in 10 years that he loves her. But the thing is that everyone else is in real life. So it's just like there's three characters, each going through their own character arcs and their own storylines, and everyone else is just reacting to it. So it's kind of like Borat and Bruno and Bad Grandpa in that way, and I found this movie to be one of the best of this kind of movie. I was just cracking up throughout. It's crude, it's crass, but man, did it make me laugh, especially two scenes. One involving a gorilla, which... it's something alright, and another scene involving a Chinese finger trap that definitely... It's something else. Eric Andres, Little Ray Howley, and Tiffany Haddish are all great in this movie, and if you haven't seen it, it's definitely a hilarious movie that you should check out. And coming in at number 13 is Oxygen. This is a movie that really stayed with me. Its exploration of memories and identity and how the two are interlinked really stayed with me. I think this movie has a lot to say, and it does so while telling a very well made, very claustrophobic thriller that has lots of twists and turns throughout that recontextualize the entire movie. It's well written, the main performance by Melanie Laurent is excellent, it's well directed by Alexandra Aja. It's just a great movie all around, and you should check it out. It's on Netflix. In 12th place is Wish Dragon, and if you haven't seen this movie, I wish you would, because it's much better than I was expecting. It's very easy to compare this movie to Aladdin, but the way that this movie switches up the formula feels very genuine, it's very heartfelt, it's hilarious, and I love the exploration of Long's character, and I found that character was explored in very interesting ways, that by the end of this movie, I was really touched by the friendship between Den and Long, and I definitely recommend this movie. It quite surprised me. In 11th place is Nobody. Now, I will admit that I have some issues with the script and structure of this movie, but the action is too damn good not to put it on this list. I found the action in this movie to be intense, brutal, well choreographed, well shot, just everything that you want action to be, this movie delivers on, and it just brought a smile to my face. Like, there was actually a car chase scene set to Heartbreaker by Pat Benatar. Like, just awesome stuff. Bob Odenkirk is fantastic in this movie. It's really well directed. I had a blast with it. Definitely recommend it. In 10th place is The Mitchells vs. the Machines. This movie tells a very touching story of a father and daughter relationship, which had a lot of heart to it, while also having a story about robots that take over the planet. And this movie is just full of energy from beginning to end. It's consistently funny. I'll never say that I laughed in this movie, but I was consistently thinking to myself, that's funny. The voice cast does a great job. It's got this great stylized animation to it, and I just found the heartfelt elements of this movie really stayed with me, so that's why it's number 10 on my list. In 9th place is A Quiet Place 2. Now, this movie was originally higher up, but the more I think about it, it is more of the same as the first one. It doesn't offer anything new, but what it does bring is a lot of the same tension building and the character-driven narrative, and just, I was on edge the entire time of this movie, and my goodness, it's an experience. Just the way they play around with sound. It, like I said, you've seen this all before in the first movie. I just think it's a really great retread of the same kind of style. So that's why it's in 9th place. In 8th place is The Father. This is a movie that Anthony Hopkins won Best Actor for, and he rightfully deserves it. He's absolutely incredible in this movie. You can actually watch it and pinpoint the exact moment he wins the Oscar. There's a scene at the end that just completely broke my heart. But besides the performances, this movie also just delivers on showing an immersive experience of how people with dementia views the world. And this movie is purposely disjointed. It's purposely disorientated because it wants to put you into the mindset of a man who has no concept of time or what's happening now. And in that way, I just found this movie to be heartbreaking in a way that all felt really real. The production design and the editing is top notch, and that is why it's one of my favorite movies of the year so far. In 7th place is The Courier, originally called Iron Bark, but this is a great old-fashioned spy thriller kind of movie. Benedict Cumberbatch is great in it, and I gotta check the name on this guy. Merab Nindizi is really fantastic in this movie, and the friendship that those two have in this movie I found to be genuinely touching. Jesse Buckley is also really great, and I loved how this movie shows aspects of the husband and wife's past. So when the wife feels a certain way about what her husband is doing now, you can see why she's a bit unsure about how she has her doubts. And you don't want her to, but you completely understand. And I just found this to be an incredibly well-written, well-directed spy movie that kept me engaged the entire time. And the directions it took, especially in the last act, just broke my heart. This is a fantastic movie, and if you haven't seen it, you should get on it. In 6th place is Luca, and this movie is just consistently entertaining. It's just got a nice vibe of 3 kids hanging out in an Italian city. There's a great fantasy element to the story that talks about how people are afraid of being different and prejudiced. And I think it's a good story at that. It's got some genuinely heartfelt and emotional moments. It's got a fantastic score by Dan Woolmer, and I love the animation style behind this movie. It may not hit the heights of other Pixar's movies, but I definitely had a great time with Luca. In 5th place, we got a movie called Our Friend, which might be the most surprising movie of the year so far for me because I wasn't expecting much. But the movie that I got was a movie with lots of emotion and depth, and I found it to be very moving. The relationships and the friendships on display here had so much nuance to them, and I was just so emotionally involved in these 3 friends and their lives and how they're there for each other. And my goodness, this movie just broke my heart so many different times. There's a structure to this movie that constantly recontextualizes what you've seen, but I just found it to be so well directed and written. Casey Affleck, Jason Segel, and Dakota Johnson are all amazing in this movie, and it's definitely the most emotional movie I've seen so far this year. I can't recommend this movie enough. It's something really special. In 4th place, we've got Malcolm and Marie, which seems to be a bit of a controversial opinion, but I really dug this movie. Zendaya should have been nominated for an Oscar. She is absolutely phenomenal in this movie. John David Washington is also really great. And I just finished Euphoria, and I love Sam Levinson as a director, and I love what he brings to this movie. He just gives this movie a nice rhythm, a nice flow. The way that the camera moves around this movie, it's just got so much style to it. It's not often that you see this much work and craft in a very simple one-location movie, but he brings it here, and I found the writing to be great. This couple fighting and how each new fight they get into reveals plenty about their characters and their relationships and their past. And I think this movie has a lot to say on so many different subjects. And just constantly, even though I was Team Zendaya from beginning to end, there are times where you hear John David Washington's arguments and what he's saying, and you're like, you know, I may not agree with him, but I at least understand his viewpoint. And that's just what a great script does. I just love this movie. I don't think it's getting the praise it deserves. It's really fantastic. In 3rd place is, this movie should be a massive hit, and it's just not getting the love it deserves, and that's Bob and Star Go to Vesta Del Mar. This is the closest thing that we have to a modern day Austin Powers. It just feels like a throwback comedy to the early 2000s, late 90s comedies, and I love that about it. This feels like a movie that got lost in time somehow. And My goodness, this movie just cracked me up from start to finish.
I'm Barb, and this is Star.
Room number again, please, sir?
611.
6'11"? Oh my, Barb. Oh my gosh, he's 6'11". 6'11"? We're in 124.
Kristen Wiig and Annie Mamolo, sorry if I'm mispronouncing her name, but they're both so great in this movie, and the back and forth between them was just, it was just great stuff. They had perfect chemistry, and I also found Jamie Dornan, you know, he's Mr. Grey in 50 Shades of Grey. He's great in this movie, and there's a dance number of his that just cracked me up. It's just so over the top and absorbed, and I love it. It's fast-paced, it's energetic, it's vibrant, it's full of life in every single second, and it just cracked me up. Just the kind of humor in this movie is my kind of humor, and if you haven't seen it and you want to laugh really hard, then check this movie out. But I will say it's an either you love it or you hate it kind of movie. If you like this kind of humor, you will love it. But if you hate this kind of humor, you will hate it. It's very love it or hate it, but I definitely loved it, and I hope you love it too. Check it out. In second place is a movie called Quo Vadis Ada, and this was a very powerful movie. It's directed by Jasmila Zabank, and she directs the hell out of it. What she does here is just masterful. The way that she uses language, this is a foreign film, and I expected the foreign language to be subtitled, but they don't do that. And that was just a brilliant touch. The main character is an interpreter. So considering that you don't understand what half the people are saying in this movie, that you understand the need for her character to come around and to interpret stuff so everyone can understand. So the use of language in this movie might be the best use of language I've seen in any movie. I was completely blown away by it. It's a very immersive experience. This movie is intense, and the horrific story on display here is just put on display in such a compelling way. Jasne Dejorek is absolutely incredible in this movie. She should have been nominated for Best Lead Actress because, wow, she is just phenomenal here. As you watch the events and the small decisions that led to such a horrific moment in history, it's completely heartbreaking. By the time this movie was done, I was just completely heartbroken. You feel just devastated, and in that way, this is a movie that I can't recommend enough. It's a movie that will stay with you. It's incredibly well directed, well written, well acted movie. It's got this fast-paced urgency to it that keeps you engaged. Just amazing stuff. And in fourth place is Shiver Baby. Emma Seligman directs this movie perfectly. She captures that social anxiety you get in big gatherings so perfectly. It is stressful, it is uncomfortable, it's unnerving, it's overwhelming in every possible way, but because of that, it's just such an experience. Movies like this aren't typically this intense, and there's no stakes going on whatsoever, but I was on the edge of my seat, and not just that, this movie is also really funny. I found myself laughing throughout. There's a really sweet relationship in this movie too, and I found the way it explored those relationships and the characters was just masterful. Rachel Sennett and Molly Golden and Fred Melamed are all fantastic in this movie. It's got a nice emotional core. It manages to be sweet. This movie just did it all for me. I absolutely loved it. And if you haven't seen Shiver Baby, then what you doing? Check it out. Watch it. It's amazing. But anyways, that was my list of the best movies of 2021 so far. Have you seen any of those movies? Because if you haven't, you should really check them out. But let me know what your favorite movies of 2021 so far are in the comments down below. I hope my reviews make the list. Like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon. And Gavin out.